Hello again, my name is Jordyn Smith.
And my name is Rhyan Brown. Before we continue our next piece, we would like to thank NJEA for inviting us to the MLK Human and Civil Rights Celebration. Our next piece does involve some audience interaction, so please participate if you wish.
Today, we are presenting a selection called Simon Says by Ashley Davis and Oompa. Ashley Davis is a Black artist and poet. She was born in California and is currently based in Philadelphia. Davis has hosted workshops with youth, participated in panels at universities, and collaborated with community artists to make space for their artists to thrive.
Oompa is a Black rapper, poet, and educator who was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. She began rapping in middle school, and this carried into her adult life. Her rapping turned into poetry, and she started performing at poetry slams in 2015. In 2016, Ashley Davis and Oompa presented their piece, Simon Says, at the 2016 National Poetry Slam. The poem Simon Says is about America's school-to-prison pipeline. According to the New York Civil Liberties Union, the school-to-prison pipeline refers to education and public safety policies that push students into the criminal legal system. We chose this selection because we know that the school-to-prison pipeline is a pressing issue in America that needs to be addressed immediately.
Former federal prosecutor Paul Butler has stated, when African American children act out, they are not treated like misbehaving kids, but rather like juvenile delinquents. He found that 16% of Black kids are suspended from school every year. 70% of school discipline cases that are referred to police are African American or Latinx kids. In the United States, we criminalize Black adolescents. Studies have found that after age 10, Black boys were seen as guiltier than a white child.
I remember one day, my sister and I were walking through downtown Summit, and we saw a group of white boys who were being rowdy and playing outside of an ice cream shop, and no one seemed to be paying them any mind. We immediately began to think about what the response and the perception of the community would have been if the tables were turned and the boys who were having the same interactions were Black.
Research has shown that when white children are misbehaving from white schools, they are normally sent to the principal's office and/or their parents receive a phone call. However, when poor students of color are involved, the police are brought in. Students of color enter the system at a pre-adolescent age, and there is no way out.
The United States has the highest juvenile incarceration rate in the world. Our closest competitor, South Africa, incarcerates its children at a fifth of the rate compared to the United States. According to justicepolicy.org, it costs the state $588 a day to incarcerate a juvenile, or over $200,000 a year. Additionally, according to NoKidsInPrison.org, statistics show that in New Jersey, Black youth are 17.5% more likely to be incarcerated than white youth. That is the pipeline. Now we present Simon Says. The game of Simon Says.
You know how it goes.
When Simon says do an action, you do an action. But you're only supposed to do an action if Simon says. Ready? Simon says, raise your right hand. Simon says, put your right hand down. Simon says, raise your left hand. Put your left hand down. Oh!
Simon didn't say, y'all are good. Okay, Simon says, put your left hand down. Now, cross your arms.
No. Simon didn't say cross your arms. You need to make sure that you're listening.
Okay. Simon says smile, show us your teeth. You're only as valuable as you are able. Simon says, raise your right hand again. Wave.
Why are you waving? You don't know how to listen? You must not be a good listener at home. Simon says it's not time for a bathroom break.
You go when Simon says.
Eat when Simon says.
Leave this room when Simon says.
There is only one rule. Only do what Simon says.
Simon says to speak only when you are told to speak.
Simon says, speak to your neighbor now.
Why isn't everyone speaking now? You chose to play this game, now you're choosing not to play?
How dare you ruin it for everyone else? Simon says it's still not time for a bathroom break. Stop asking.
Simon says you're not listening.
People that don't listen will never be successful. You know what? They don't even care.
They don't.
Just take out a book and be quiet. Read. Simon says read.
Simon says, time to fight on the hallways now, one behind the other.
Straight side of the line.
Tight to the right.
Simon says, if you can't be silent, how will you hear what Simon is telling you to do?
Silence.
I said be silent. Simon says be silent.
Simon says only 20 minutes to eat your lunch and be silent. Eat faster. Eat faster. Simon says to sit up straight and be still.
Simon says to tuck in your uniform. You don't want to tuck in your uniform? Go sit in the corner.
Simon says, if you can't sit in this classroom, how will you handle your jail cell?
Simon says, you refer to it as Officer Simon from now on.
And Officer Simon says, know your place. Officer Simon says, show your teeth, boy. You're only as valuable as you are able.
Officer Simon says, put your hand down. We don't raise our hands here. There are no questions here. Officer Simon says you must not be a good listener at home.
At this rate, you will not be going back home.
Officer Simon says you will speak only when you are told to speak. Officer Simon says speak to your cellmate now.
Why isn't everyone speaking now? You chose to play this game, now you're choosing not to play?
How dare you ruin it for everyone else? Officer Simon says it's still not time for a bathroom break. Stop asking.
Officer Simon says you're not listening.
People that don't listen will never be successful.
Officer Simon says, time to fire on the hallways now, one behind the other.
Straight side of the line, tight to the right. Officer Simon says, if you can't be silent, how will you hear what Officer Simon is telling you to do?
Silent.
I said be silent. Officer Simon says be silent. Fix your uniform. Fix your face when you're talking to me. Clean your bunk, you animal. Sit up straight.
I don't care if I didn't say, Officer Simon says. Officer Simon said it. So sit up straight.
And be still. Be still. Be still. Officer Simon says, if you can't handle your jail cell, how will you handle your casket?
Thank you.
you.